The 2025 draft is officially in the books. We have some thoughts. Let's get into them. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you all had a great weekend. Hope you all enjoyed the draft. For you Minnesota sports fans, hopefully you found some joy in the Minnesota sports weekend. A lot of good things to talk about. But we're here talking about Minnesota Vikings football and the draft. Also, if you're in Minnesota and you're in the areas where these storms are hitting, be safe. Hopefully my power doesn't go out. We're hoping for the best here. Hopefully we can make it through the next hour. But yeah, draft is in the books. Vikings ended with 5 picks as well as picking up Sam Howell. We're going to talk about all those players today. Give our grades, give our thoughts on how we thought the draft went in comparison to how we thought it was going to go. But at the end of the day, the Minnesota Vikings got some really, really good players, some players that are going to be, some players like Donovan Jackson, who I think are going to be staples to this roster for years to come. Some guys that could potentially turn into a little bit more than what they're expected to. But at the end of the day, you could just tell with the draft, with the draft calls and everything on YouTube for the Vikings YouTube page, how happy they were and how excited they are to get all these players in here. And yeah, man, I'm excited to see where this thing goes. Because I think the Vikings got a lot of really, really good players in this draft and undrafted free agency.
Yeah. Undrafted free agency. I mean, Crazy did it again. Obviously, we'll talk about that more in depth later. But he did that again. As far as in draft, yeah, I think he got some good players. Some of those players, I don't know really how great they'll be. They kind of went more towards potential with their next couple picks after Donovan Jackson, which we'll get into. And I like their potential. I like the athletic upside. It was interesting to see the RAS score. We had the second highest average ARS score out of any team in the draft, which is something that we haven't really been doing under Quasi. So it's interesting to see that we're going after that potential, which I do like because our team is in a situation, especially that you kind of feel that question mark that it would be the left guard. Everywhere else, even if I do think we need futures like defensive interior, me and you were team defensive interior, and we felt that we needed. We still need some depth there and a guy that can kind of take over since you got our older guys in Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. But since you do have those guys in place, you can take chances at most positions on this team and kind of go for potential and hope that, Brian Flores can do his magic on defense. And then of course, Kevin O'Connell and the offense coordinators, McCardle, all those guys can make some big plays on wide receiver room and the rest of the offense as well. So I did like that, but at the same time, I think there's I think you can argue that a lot of those players might have been a little bit overdrafted there. Even with Donovan Jackson, you can argue that he also was overdrafted, and we'll get into it specifically one by one. But first, let me do some shout outs here. We had Bob Swede in the building right away. What's going on, Bob? Welcome in. We got Skol for Life, Barber. Skol for Life. Let's go. We got some good UDFAs. Been doing homework. I haven't dug in too hard. I know who the studs are, but I haven't dived in too deep on some of these guys. I haven't had the time to do that yet, which I will. But we'll bring it up.
I kind of dig the running back. I kind of like the running back.
Yeah, you do. See, that's a hard. Yeah,
got some speed.
Which, hey. It's a stacked. I was still disappointed we didn't grab Bashard Smith, probably like the Viking fan favorite for a late round pick. You could have got him all the way in round 7. Obviously we didn't have a pick there, but we passed him up so many times to see him going like mid, which I'm surprised because I thought he looked really good. Right. I'm surprised he even made it that far, but I was a little disappointed that we ended up not getting him. But anyways, we got FT Maddie in the building. What's going on, my dude? Hey guys, Gary, of course, Sup Skol Mates, my guy. We talked to him after the first pick for a while. Who else we got in here? Hey, Big Raylin. And I should have known. Where's my buddy Nick? Not surprised there. Big Raylin couldn't wait to get in here tonight, man. He wanted to.
Yeah, he knows as soon as we hop in here, we're going to ask about Luka, LeBron, and his Lakers. So he's avoiding us. I think is really what's happening. Smart guy.
Take a night off, which, by the way, we might get into maybe at the end of the show. We'll kind of dive into the other Minnesota sports real quick. Why not? We got Delton here, bro. This draft was dog shit. I wouldn't say dog shit, but I definitely am not sitting here saying the Vikings came out and had the best draft or anywhere near that, in my opinion. Obviously, we'll get into that more as we keep going here. Bleeding Purple, what is going on? Did not sound excited at all. Like for man, Jackson did not. He did apparently. It sounds like there's a recording of him saying that he wanted to pick the Vikings were his preferred team. So
I mean,
that means
maybe the dude just likes to work, doesn't get too excited. It's like,
yeah,
cool, I'm going to the NFL.
Yeah, like, he might be
Awesome.
the Jaden
Let's go.
McDaniels of this offense. I mean, you already have Jordan Addison that kind of has that place a little bit, but we could use more Jaden McDaniels on this team, you know?
Right. Nope.
Who else we got in here? Am I missing anybody? Let's see. I see you, Jen. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. Logan Brown was the number you Quasi nailed it. Yeah, the number 1, I'm assuming you're saying. Let's see. I think we got everything. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm being negative. No worries. Hey, I was expecting this draft to roll a little bit different than it did. Obviously, we're about to get into it in a little bit here. But again, everybody, another show, another giveaway. JJ McCarthy, who is expected to go and have a press conference tomorrow for the first time since his surgery. And that's going to be exciting because I can't wait to hear what he says after one, obviously becoming, and at this point, I'm sure his humble ass will probably push it off a little bit, but it's pretty obvious he is more than the quarterback 1 at this point. And then everything the Vikings have done in the offseason, including Donovan Jackson and picking a wide receiver in the 3rd round to make his life as easy as possible and give him like the best chances for success that I've ever seen for a year 1 starter, especially a year 1 starter that was a top 10 draft pick, which is crazy. So that's going to be interesting, and we'll get into all of that. But we're getting the hashtag Skols and keep them rolling. Like the video. We got 16 people in here, only 5 likes. Get those likes in here. Get those subscribes in here. We got the draft is officially over. I know, like now this is we got like a handful of weeks here to still be excited because then things slow down. Obviously, we're gonna have minicamp, we're gonna have the schedule release. We have some things to talk about. But man, you at the very least you feel like this. I guess my first reaction, regardless of how I felt about these picks, I was team defense probably more than offensive guard. I felt confident with what we have in offensive guard, but if there's just one big positive of picking Donovan Jackson, it is if there's one position on this team that a player can come in and be a day 1 starter or even have the opportunity to be a day 1 starter on this stacked team that we have in Minnesota, it was left guard. And getting Donovan Jackson makes your team better and your starters on this team better right away, assuming that he ends up taking the left guard position.
Yeah. What's going on, Mark? It's been a minute since we've
seen you. What up, Mark?
And I guess one other thing that I will say before we do get into like the grading and stuff is I mean, I get you have to do it. Everybody does it. It's fun to do. I think draft grades are incredibly stupid. Because really you don't know first off how these work out from years down the road till you see all these players play.
Okay, T-Bass.
I mean, but also like the other way of it is like we wanted defense. We would have been okay with a trade back. We want this. Everything you see is like, well, I had this guy higher. These mock drafts had this guy higher. I've seen him not go here. I've seen him go in the 3rd round. That's what it all comes down to. Like grading is more about personal perspective and how you viewed things and how you viewed other people's how you took other people's media and kind of made it into your own mindset. Where for real, like teams don't think about it that way. Teams like, well, I had this guy here and this guy down here, which as we saw with Shadur Sanders. Shadur Sanders was supposed to be number 2 quarterback on some people's boards. Mel Kiper had him going as a 1st round pick. He slides all the way back down to the late rounds and gets taken where he gets taken. Like I just like I understand you have to do it. I understand that there are players that people wanted and you view as really, really good. But at the same time, it's just like it really is all a matter of perspective and kind of how you view this thing. Because that is really kind of how this all goes down. And I get it. We had one thing in mind when we were doing our mock drafts. And honestly, all the guys that we wanted, you know, the Harmons, the Kenneth Grants, the Walter Nolans, were all gone by our pick. The board just didn't really fall on our way, and Kwesi kind of had to shuffle and do things a little bit differently. So like I don't, and we're gonna go through the grades here, and obviously we'll give our thoughts on those. But I don't know. But the grading of drafts it really is all just a matter of perspective at the end of the day, and really has nothing to do with how the team value these players. And also another thing, like we took a lot of guys, you mentioned the word potential, and Kwesi did mention at a press conference earlier on this year that the way that he kind of views team building is you want to get players in here that will fill a need before it becomes a need. And that really is what he did. He got, right. I mean, just a quick run through. We got Felton, who eventually could replace Jalen Naylor, who's going into a contract season as your wide receiver 3. If everything works out in camp, Addison gets suspended, you have another receiver in that room already before wide receiver becomes a need, and you're scrambling to find a replacement for Addison when that suspension comes. Ty Ingram Dawkins, you have 2 guys who can rush the passer from the interior, but they're a little bit older. So you're getting a guy who's going to be a project who can work into that role when these guys eventually do move on. So when you look at these certain picks, I think that is a way you can view what Kwesi did here as well. It's like, were these guys that maybe aren't going to be day one starters? No. Could you have taken someone else in that spot? Sure. But I think that's how Kwesi views it. We bring in these potential guys, they work with our great coaching staff, and eventually when it is their time and when there is those openings, we already have them here, and hopefully they can step in, and we're not looking for guys to fill those spots when we need to have them. We have them waiting in the wings, ready to go. So that's just kind of my perspective thoughts I wanted to give before we hop into the grading, our grading of things here. So yeah, that's kind of initial things that I wanted to get out there before we hop in.
Well, speaking of like potential and every like actual teams draft boards being different than obviously fans and stuff, which brings me to the running back that I was dying on a hill for, and that's RJ Harvey, who ends up being the 5th running back off the board. Some people had him going into the 5th. I know PFF had him at the end of the 3rd, ends up going 5th, 2nd round to the Broncos. And I think and it was a big question mark play, but I'm dying on that hill. So I'm going to be watching him closely. Even though I'm not a Sean Payton fan, and I know Sean Payton had a quote where he said he sat for like 6 hours just couldn't stop watching RJ Harvey film. And I was like, okay, I felt him on that one. So I'm excited to even see how RJ Harvey does, because he ended up actually getting, which we did predict on here, that he would ultimately get drafted earlier than what people thought, even though he wasn't a Viking, but he was someone I was tailing throughout this draft. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on him. But yeah, like you said, we'll kind of go through each player, give our grades, our assessment on that whole thing, and then ultimately give our overall grade on them as well. Skol Mafia, I see you, bro. T-Bass, I said this week he's a medical bus. I'll go, he's a medical. Oh, you're talking about Will Johnson. We may not ever see Will Johnson play a game, people. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that was all about. It'd be interesting to see what that's all about. Anyways, let's jump into these players. Here, let me get this all situated. Boom. Starting with number 1, pick 24, Donovan Jackson. Casey, what is your thoughts on this pick?
Yeah, I mean,
and just the whole situation.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been able to sit over the weekend. Maybe it's changed since it originally happened. Obviously, a lot of you guys were in and saw our initial reaction when we were with Rap during this pick live. But
yeah, and there was a little bit of shock value there, maybe a little bit of disappointment, especially on Rap's end. He was not very happy about it at first. Then we got the enlightening words of one Papa Gary, who hopped on and told us all, just take a step back from this. Don't be so upset about it. It's a good player. And when the weekend's done, you'll see that. And the more I went back and watched Donovan Jackson, you listen to him talk, you get the whole story about how, started a lot of games at Ohio State, bumped out to left tackle, which could have at the end of the day hurt his draft stock. And he bumped out to left tackle because he wanted to win. That shows selflessness. And he played pretty damn well. First game went up against Abdul Carter and held his own. And
was it James Pierce who ended up going to 2nd round?
Yeah, and obviously we saw what happened after. Houston ended up trading back, picking up the 2nd round pick from the Giants, as well as getting 2 3rd rounders, which would have been a deal we probably would have taken and been happy with had we made that had we made that move. But as we heard, Houston was gonna snag him at 25 if we didn't, and we said it all along. If there is a guy that falls, that Kwesi is like, I do not want to miss out on this player. I need to make sure that I get him. And he took that guy instead of trading back. We'd have been happy with it. And obviously listening to Kwesi afterwards, the way that he talked about Donovan Jackson, the reaction from the draft room. This was one of those instances where it's like, hey, all three of these defensive interior guys are gone. We could trade back. Maybe Donovan Jackson's there from what we're hearing rumor wise afterwards. Probably not. Probably was going to go next pick. And maybe, everyone said, oh, Amenwari's going to be there. Maybe we're just not that big of fans of Amenwari. Maybe Kwesi and Flores are like, this guy just doesn't fit the mold. We think that if we bring in Donovan Jackson, he's going to start week 1 for us. So once you got past the initial shock value, the initial like thoughts of, oh, we really wanted this to happen. We really wanted to trade back, really wanted to take this guy here, really want to take this guy here. As Delton mentioned earlier, even a guy like Jahad Campbell fell, right? There was plenty of players there, but Kwesi, the front office, Kevin O'Connell viewed Donovan Jackson so highly thought of on their board that they said, we do not want to miss our chance at solidifying our offensive line for at least the next 2 years, but everything other than the center, having them under contract for the next 3 or 4. So once you kind of got over it, took a step back, learned about the kid, and watched how he played, I ended up being incredibly happy with this one. And this really just does solidify your offensive line. Like, you don't need, but the thing is, I think he does need to come in. I think he does need to start week 1. I think he will start week 1. And I don't know. I'm pretty damn happy with this pick when you really sit back and think about it.
Yeah. And I agree. Sitting back and thinking about it. So first off, everything that you said is exactly right. The reality is, and not just this pick, it felt like a common thing with this entire draft. At least that's how it felt. Maybe not. This pick definitely felt like it, as far as the draft just didn't follow the way that we wanted to. Even with the second pick with Felton, you had Xavier Watts out there. You had the Falcons go up and snipe him. Who knows if the Vikings were interested in him, but knowing for a fact that the Falcons knew exactly what they're doing, it stung a little bit because he was the best player available at that moment at a position of need. So it just felt like this draft did not fall for us. And even at the time, it wasn't even as apparent. You still had Starks out there. I'm not surprised we didn't go after safety.
I forgot about Starks too.
Yeah. Starks was available, but like, if I'm Kwesi, and the Georgia, not even because the Georgia thing that adds to it, but just picking another safety in the first round, like you want to think no GM or anyone out there is going to like have that in the back of their head, but he's fucking human. It probably was. So, like you said, 3 defensive interiors gone. You get Gray's able. I mean, Booker, I wasn't a fan of going after Booker, but still 2 guards gone. The reality, and then, so yeah, the reality of just the guard position in general was these guards are coming off, these interior offensive linemen are coming off the board early. So that idea of, in my initial disappointment, was that I felt like we should have traded back. I felt like maybe we could have traded back and still got Donovan Jackson. Maybe even with what the Giants got, the Giants gave up 2 third-round picks to move up to go grab him. And I was like, I would have even taken that deal. And then you saw the Falcons use a first-round pick to move up from 48. That was a little steep for me, but you do get an extra first-round pick. That was my initial thoughts. And then you do start hearing rumors that there's a good chance that he was being looked at by Houston, and Houston ends up trading back because Jackson is gone. And it just really felt like Kwesi, at the end of the day, he might have been the last one on his board who he would want to pick at 24. And if that is the case, I do think they made the right choice. I do believe now for sure that Donovan Jackson wouldn't have made it out of the first round. And I also do believe that I love everything about Donovan Jackson. I love his mentality. I love that his winning mentality. I love that he says that he hates losing more than winning. Like, just everything about him is the type of guy you want, that gritty player. 5-star, was a 5-star recruit, the number 1 guard coming out of high school in 2021. Just a nasty player. Like you said, the fact that not only do you make the decision to go from guard to tackle mid-season, that could, if you play bad, could incredibly hurt your draft stock, which he was well aware. He talked to his agent, whatever, and he said, I just want to help my team win. Obviously, you got to love that. But the fact that he went and did that, and then he ends up playing well there, especially in the biggest games of the year, and ultimately winning the national championship, is extremely impressive. Because not a lot, like, you hear a lot of players come in and they can play any position or whatever, but I don't think you see a guy who just change his position midseason and then just plays well there. It just shows you that he's just a skilled overall player. He's not someone that just needs to play one spot. He's just good at football.
Right.
And you just gotta love that. So I'm at the point now, like, it feels like a plug and play at a position that we can actually use a day one starter at, in comparison to what we were hoping for, which is defensive interior or even corner or safety, those other needs, which it'd have been more of like, maybe they're a starter next year or something like that, but they're going to be behind some guys now or something like that. They're going to contribute this year, but not as a day one starter. And that's what you got in Donovan Jackson. So that's why if I was going to give this a grade, I'm going to stick to my guns here. I'm not changing my grade from what we had on Bleacher Report on Saturday. I still do think I'm still giving it a B, and maybe that's not even fair. I'd probably give it a B plus, maybe an A minus, knowing the way the draft board fell for us and the situation the Vikings were put in. But I still do think you ultimately picked a guy that generally, it's a non-sexy position. You picked a guy that, you know, if there wasn't the runs on interior, maybe he would have been like a borderline second round pick or something like that. So I'm still gonna give it a B. But what's your thoughts on that?
I'm gonna give like a B plus. I'm gonna look at 80. I'm gonna do like an 89.5%, like just barely on the cusp of A minus. And yes, like you said, a little bit of it might be the disappointment that we probably could have traded back and gotten some more picks. I would have loved. I mean, obviously, you can't control that all those defensive interior guys got taken earlier, but you know, everybody had been begging Kwesi, don't get too cute, and if your guy's there, take him. He did not. He got ugly. He took a big ugly, as what we in high school is what they called the offensive lineman on our football took the big guy. They took the guy that solidifies your offensive line. And this draft, at the end of the day, and I'll get more deep into it once you kind of give final thoughts on the draft and everything. This really does, when you look at it now, taking a step back and look how it went down. This looks like a draft that was less about stacking the defense and more about giving your young quarterback coming off a knee injury every single possibility there is out there to succeed, and solidifying your offensive line with first round talent at left guard to go along with your first round left tackle and a proven center on that side of the line. That's exactly what we did. Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell put their young quarterback in a perfect position to succeed by taking Donovan Jackson here. And you can't be upset with that at the end of the day. I mean, you could have wanted other things to happen, but you can't be mad that they finished this offensive line, and that's one thing. Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell said going into this offseason, we need to get better up front. And that's exactly what they did. They stuck to their word. And here we are with basically knowing who your five starters are going to be going into training camp. Does he need to go earn it? Absolutely. But I everything you're seeing from him, I don't have any doubts in my mind that he's going to earn it. So I'm going to give it a solid B plus, very close to an A minus.
Yeah. And even like, that's the thing with this draft. You have 4 picks. Like, everyone's talking about, like, everyone's expecting a flashy draft or whatever. Like, I never was really expecting anything too flashy. Obviously, we had like our picks, maybe done our mocks. We had the A plus mock or whatever. We knew that was very unlikely to happen. We're just having fun with it. Maybe I would have thought our first pick would be different. I didn't know how the rest of the draft would have rolled up, but at the end of the day, you have 4 picks. That's what this draft year is. You got Dallas Turner last year. You got JJ McCarthy last year. You sacrificed this draft for last year. You got your quarterback of the future. Hopefully Dallas Turner takes that big step forward that everybody believes he will. And the reality is, if you can leave this draft, obviously I want more of these players to end up being very helpful on this team. But if you leave this draft with a guy that comes in and he can just solidify your offensive line, for me, that by itself would be just a win for this draft in general. For us to not really have very many picks and things like that. And then that's why I like kind of you went potential outside of that, and hopefully one of those guys can come in, and at least one of those guys and make a difference.
And with not trading back, it was tough. Like, there's a bunch of names that I'm sure the team was interested in and we really liked that we saw go in like 3rd, 4th round, knowing we didn't have those picks. Like, it was a little tough, seeing some of those guys go off the board that probably would have been good fits here, which is why it might add to a little bit of that disappointment of not trading back. But again, at the end of the day, he didn't get cute, took his guy, and we're left with a beefy offensive line.
Yeah, no. So we ultimately like the pick. Wasn't my best case scenario by any means, but at the end of everything, JJ McCarthy, you're giving him the best chance to succeed, and that's just a W in itself. But let's keep on going here. We got Ty Felton, wide receiver from Stephon Diggs out of the Miter. Diggs was a 5th-round pick, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So we got a 3rd-round pick. So you pick Ty Felton, a guy who comes in and has awesome speed. One, not just he ends up running like a 4.38, but it shows honestly even faster on the field. And that's the one thing, like everybody talks about, like, who cares about straight line speed and what you show at the combine, which is true to a certain extent. Sometimes you see guys who run 4.3s or even 4.4s, and then it just doesn't really, they don't look that same speed. I mean, talking about like even Hampton, for instance, Omarion Hampton, he runs a 4.4. I know he's a big dude, but he doesn't like look like he runs that fast on the field. I think he's going to be a good player. That has nothing to do with that. But still, when you see this guy on the field, he looks like by far the fastest guy there. And something that the Vikings do not have on this team is a guy with that type of speed, 6'1", a little bit skinnier, but just brings a different element to this squad. Had a really good season with Maryland. I think he ended up with over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, well, I think 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns.
1,100 yards. People say that he was kind of fed a lot because they didn't have a lot there, and they say that is a reason for a lot of his receptions and things like that. But at the end of the day, you bring someone with some upside. I know Gary mentioned this before as far as the negatives go. He had 8 drops last season. He has short arms, 39-inch vertical, though. He's up to the top as far as his vertical goes, but 9-inch hands, small arms, small hands, drops the ball quite a bit, doesn't run the best routes as far as negatives. So definitely a guy who's a project type of person, and some people didn't have him going to like the 5th round and things like that. Obviously, Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell in the front office see something different in Ty Felton, because going and picking him in the 3rd round definitely tells you that they think he can be much more than what a lot of people think he can be, which is kind of like this gadgety type of player. And I hope he really is. And if he can come in and be wide receiver 3, clean up his footwork a little bit, and then also, make sure he's reeling in those balls, it'd be nice. FT Matty, appreciate you, brother. McCardle really wanted Felton bad. Yeah. And if it's a McCardle guy, you got to feel great about that.
Well, and the big thing is, like, he was a really good special teamer at Maryland as well. So he's going to come in, he's going to contribute immediately on special teams, probably a gunner on coverage, and who knows, maybe he'll even end up returning some punts and kicks. We'll see how that goes. But a big thing, as we mentioned earlier, like he does kind of have a similar skill set to Jalen Naylor, but as we mentioned before, Kwesi wants to get players in here before they become needs. And if Jalen Naylor has a good year this year, ends up leaving, we have our Jalen Naylor replacement in Ty Felton. And as T-Bass said, 60%, Big Raylan, 60% of his catches were within 9 yards of the line of scrimmage. And that could be another big thing. Like, we've been trying to get this screen game going, and it's never quite worked.
Well, I think Big Raylan's trying to say that is a negative, I think.
I mean, yeah, but is it a negative or is it a positive? Because he's a short.
It's a positive for our team because we don't really have that on this team.
So,
hopefully, he can be more than that.
Come in here and he can be that yards after catch type of receiver, or he can be a deep threat. He has good body control, as we kind of saw from some of his highlights. So he's going to come in, he's going to get a chance to contribute right away, show he's worth his weight on special teams, and I think he'll be able to find a role within this offense. And then down the road, if he steps up and let's say Addison does get his 3-game suspension, you have a guy that can step in and play there. Next year, if Jalen Naylor leaves, we have our next replacement at that spot. But it's a guy who's going to get some run this year in what's looking like a pretty crowded wide receiver room. So again, was it a little bit of a reach? Probably. Was there better players on the board that we could have seen us taking? Also probably, which is why I think this one does get graded a little bit lower. I mean, I'm thinking like, I'm kind of going more in like when I thought about it more, I like what he brings to the table. Probably more of that, C+, B- kind of adjacent range there. But I do think that this could end up being one of those picks that really helps this team out in a lot of different facets of the game. And as I said, special teams, he's going to contribute day one.
Yeah. One thing I did want to mention is I did a poll on Donovan Jackson. It had like 54% A's, 39% B's. So that's kind of what the chat thinks about Jackson, mostly A's and B's. Yeah. Grading Ty Felton, I have to give it a C. I got to be a little hard on this. I do love his speed. I like his intangibles. I like all that stuff, but he did kind of feel like a guy that is raw coming in here. It was that last season was his first time you saw his production, that kind of production. He kind of became like their top guy at that point. He was there for like 2 or 3 years before that. So I don't know. I'm not confident he was there for a third round pick. I think that there's a chance that you might have better wide receivers around that pick. I do like the value we ended up getting for that trade back. So I mean, if you add that into the grade as well, I might boost it up a little bit. So, I mean, this is a pick where I'm like, in Kwesi I trust type of thing. And the reality is it's hard to for sure trust Kwesi when it comes to like, and it might not even be just Kwesi, but obviously we've seen guys like that in the third round specifically, like what's his name? What's a cornerback that we drafted? I can't think of his name right now.
Oh, Caleb Evans.
Yeah, Caleb Evans. And there's another guy too. Caleb, like guys where you're like, this is his guy. And this is kind of what Ty Felton kind of feels like. And it hasn't really worked out in our favor too much. Blackman was like that though. And it mostly worked out, but obviously his injury. So that's not really his fault. This is how I kind of feel about Ty Felton. Maybe he sees something that a lot of other people didn't as far as like what this kid's potential really is. Obviously, he has all the physical traits that you'd want. Right. And that's kind of what I hope what happens. But at the end of the day, like he was a third round pick. And based off of his traits and everything, you've kind of maybe seen him in the fifth.
But he comes in, but the big thing is he comes in as a guy that doesn't, people are, talking about Troy Williamson and can't catch. He comes in as a guy that doesn't have to be on the field right away. So he can develop his game with Keenan McCardell, with Kevin O'Connell. And I don't know. I understand the flaws, but the flaws are the reason why he got picked tail end of the third round. If there's no flaws there with that speed, you probably go a little bit earlier than that. Knowing that you're not going to have another pick till the fifth round, maybe you're like, he's the top wide receiver on our board. We want wide receiver. It's something we are targeting. So instead of pass on him now, it's a little early, but let's just snag him, get him on.
And I respect going after the guy that you like. Like if there's a guy that you see is, because there's steals all over the draft. There's a fifth rounder that ends up being one of the best players at his position in the NFL. Obviously, if there's a guy that feels that way about him and they waited too long because they wanted good value, that'd be stupid. And that's what Ty Felton feels like. That's what, I mean, this is a pick. It is kind of exciting because he does have those traits. His highlights are fun to watch. He's so fucking fast compared to everybody else. And just knowing that we did use a third round pick and how much people like him, it does make you excited to see that we'll get the most out of him and he can be more than a wide receiver 3 or at least a wide receiver 3 for us. And then kick returner, all that special team stuff. It's exciting to see, but it's one of those, it's going to be for me, it's definitely going to be like, I need to see it to believe it type of situation, I think.
Yeah.
And speaking of that in general, just going into some grades, we got 15% A, 46% B, 31% C, and 8% D or F on that one. So I would say mostly B, C, B minus, C plus.
Middling grades. Yeah. Kind of
middling grades, which is fair. This is a guy that he has a lot of question marks. He has a lot of question marks, but he has the intangibles. I respect them for going after that because we, like you said, we do have, this team is so well-rounded that you can bank on a potential of somebody. And I feel confident in the coaches we have, that we have the people in this room that gets the best out of almost any position on this team.
Yeah. And it's just, and again, he comes in and he can contribute on special teams, find his way onto the team and work on the rest of his craft while he's here. Exactly.
All right, let's keep on rolling here. Next, we got Ty Ingram, Dockings, pick 139. This was our pick, correct? And then we ended up trading 142.
Yes,
I believe so. I'm gonna let you jump into this one first. I'll get some grade stuff poll going here.
Again, like one of those when we took him, I'm like, okay, I never really heard of this guy. When we did our defensive interior guys, we didn't really talk about him. I think they had him listed as edge on ESPN during the draft coverage. And I know some people, instead of having him as a defensive tackle, had him as a defensive lineman. And again, it was one of those things, like we wanted them to take a swing at someone in this defensive tackle class. There was other guys that I liked a little bit more than him who were available. But when I saw the pick, went back and watched him play, I like it. I mean, and again, as we talked about, it's potential and it's needs for the future. He's going to be behind, and he's probably going to play that. He can play. He's positionally flexible. He said it himself. He can play all the different spots. He can play 0, 3, 5 tech, rush from the edges. He can do it all. And I do see him being more of a pass, growing into more of a pass rushing specialist than a run stopper. But again, it's a guy that can come in. He doesn't need to start right away. Obviously, he's going to be sitting behind Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen. He gets to learn with a really good young group of players and try to make his way onto this team. He's got some feistiness to him. When I was watching some of his highlights, I like the way that he does things. He can get after it in the pass rush game. Again, it's a Flores guy who can come in, he can sit, he can learn, and eventually he's going to be able to find himself, maybe not starting, but maybe as a rotational guy, but there's going to be room for him in the coming years. And again, it's getting a player in here you can develop who fills a need before that need becomes a need, and you got to just go scramble to get somebody. So again, that's what a lot of these late round guys are. It's potential. You're picking off potential guys who could help you in the future, and he does have a ton of potential. And I know a couple YouTube videos I watch. I mean, obviously, this probably isn't going to be similar, but I mean, Danielle Hunter was also coming in, mid-round pick, not a lot of college production, but they bet on the intangibles. They bet on the athleticism, which he's very athletic, and you see what happens here. Right. So this one excites me a little bit. I think this could end up being one of those that in, 2 years from now, we're just like, this guy was an absolute steal in the fifth round. Fifth round? Yeah. So I'm really excited to see what Flores can do with him.
Yeah, and this feels like a boomer bust type of pick. As far as in the next handful of years, he might end up being a massive steal in this draft, or he's someone that doesn't, like a Jaquelin Roy or something, that just doesn't work out and he's off this team in a couple of years. But like I said, we went for a Jaquelin, when we went for the Jaquelin Roy, he was someone who had the pedigree. At one point, he was expected to be a first-round pick, but he wasn't the flashiest player. He wasn't the most athletic player or anything like that. And those are the kind of players we've been more aiming towards with Kwesi so far, instead of going for these athletic potential. And I kind of like changing it up. And like you said, there was a couple guys that were still available on the defensive interior that I would have also liked. I know I liked Josh Farmer before, but he got picked right a couple picks beforehand. I was screaming for CJ West. He made it. CJ West, I think, is going to end up being one of the steals, if not the steal of the draft. I was hoping he'd fall to us, and a lot of guys I really liked didn't make it to us. And there was the Peebles out there, what's his name, JJ. Yeah,
the defensive tackle / fullback.
I forget if he got picked right before, if he did.
I think he went after
us. Sure. Yeah. So there's a couple guys there. But at that point, I didn't care that much. I was like, I'm just glad you went in defensive interior, and you know what? You went out and got a guy that was probably the most athletic and the most upside out of anybody we could have picked there at that point. And at that point into the draft, if we picked the defensive interior, I wanted it to be early. I wanted a guy that we felt like was going to be the future at this position, just how we feel about Donovan Jackson on that offensive line. And since we're later in the drafts, I don't want to mess around with defensive interior. Defensive interior, next year we can go get a first rounder or whatever and really feel confident about that. And that's assuming that Tyron Ingram Dawkins needs a little bit more time. But I do like at that point in the draft, you're in the 5th round, go for potential at the position. You might as well. So I end up really, really liking this pick. And like you said, I went back and watched some of his stuff. And I did like it. You can tell that he needs a little bit of work yet to really be an impactful player. But you definitely see the flashes. And again, man, the athleticism, the size, he has everything you kind of need from a defensive end hybrid from that position. I saw Big Raylan, or I think it was Big Raylan, talked about he could add some more weight or whatever. And maybe you do that for him and you just make him not so much a tweener anymore, but we don't really even have a guy on this team that is kind of like a tweener between defensive end and a defensive tackle anyway. So it doesn't mean that there's not room for him on this on this team regardless. So ultimately giving it a grade, I like this pick. I give it a B. I almost want to give it a B plus. I like the potential. And I like that's what we did. I like we got a defensive interior. Obviously, we're talking about a 5th round pick. We're not talking about, even a 3rd round pick for this guy, I do think is the right time to go make a move on this. If CJ West was out there, if Josh Farmer was out there, I'd probably like it a little less, but they were taken at this point. So
I think B is fair. This is the guy. This is the guy from this draft class. Like I said, I think Donovan Jackson's going to start. I'm kind of talking about the rest of the picks that we had. I think this is going to be the guy that we'll be talking about this year as the guy that showed us a little something, and we see a lot of we see a lot of bright things in his future. This is the guy from this draft class for me, the underrated guy that I think is gonna make a splash, and I think it's gonna be a guy that we're gonna have our eyes on come the end of the season. Who knows? Maybe I think in training camp it's gonna be a guy that we're hearing good things about as well.
All right, we cannot have another vote on B. No more votes on B. It's at the perfect.
We should just end 69. It right now. Let's just end it.
Ending it right now. B 69%. C 19%, D or F 12%. So we're rolling with that 69% B for Ty Ingram Dawkins.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. That was probably it's probably my favorite pick out of Donovan Jackson.
Yeah. Yep. Same. I would agree.
All right, keep on rolling here to the next. Actually, we're going to jump into the next big move, controversial. And this happened between this pick and the next one. We traded 142 to move back to 176 or whatever the fuck it was.
172, yep.
172, 30 spots. And we get Sam Howell, which a lot of Vikings were howling. Not as loud as the Timberwolves because they're going crazy right now. We're all over the place. Here we go. They were angry about Sam Howell. At the end of the day, I know Casey, this was Casey's thing. I'll let him jump into the idea, but at the end of the day, we're talking about a backup quarterback. There's a reason when people say like he's supposed to be a starter or he's not going to win us games. He's a backup. He wouldn't be a backup if he wins games all the time.
Or he costs too much money.
Or he costs too much money. You got two options. You either get an old veteran that is past his prime, or you get a guy who's literally a backup quarterback. So Casey, I'll let you jump into that whole thing.
Yeah, you move back 30 spots, which you turn into 2 draft picks later on by moving back again, and you pick up a backup quarterback who's got, what was it? Like 18 games of starting experience? Sure, I know he was 21 and 21 touchdown to interception ratio that year with Washington when Washington was awful. Yeah, he came in last year in that when Geno got hurt and played like garbage. Like he's not great, right? And I know a lot of people are like, I said, look at Sam Darnold, and everyone's giving me shit for that. Like, well, you can't compare Sam Darnold to totally different players. Like, whatever. Like, it's just, you're getting a 25-year-old cheap quarterback with starting experience, and things people forget about when they really think about this whole thing is think about who we have being his coach, right? We have Kevin O'Connell, and we have Josh McCown here.
In the draft process.
Exactly. And so we have 2 guys who obviously wanted to make this move and get this guy on this roster. So for 1 year, you get a cheap backup quarterback with starting experience to take that role. And as we've said, I don't understand all the concern with Vikings fans in the backup quarterback position. I think it's absolutely stupid. Like, it's just, you're overthinking this way too much. Like, oh, we don't know if McCarthy's going to be any good. We need to get a starting We knew basically after the first 2 weeks of free agency, we weren't going to bring in a starting caliber backup quarterback, right? I mean, that was pretty clear in my mind. So the fact that you get a guy who's had some starts in this league, he's young, and you have Kevin O'Connell coaching him, quit worrying about the backup quarterback spot. Quit doubting that J.J. McCarthy is going to be healthy and good to go. If he sucks, let him take his lumps this year. If he gets hurt, we're screwed anyway. Sam Howell at least is a guy who started games in this league. And then you still went out and added Max Brosmer at undrafted free agency, which I love, by the way. Like J.J. McCarthy, calling it now, J.J. McCarthy, Max Brosmer, that's your top 2 quarterback room for the next 10 years. Max Brosmer is going to be a good backup in this league. I stand on that. And
that's already if Max Brosmer doesn't come in and play so well that we have no choice but to trade him because everybody knows the hype around Kevin O'Connell's quarterback guru.
Yeah. No, I just think Brosmer is a smart kid who's just he's going to be that backup. He's going to be the smart guy that has some talent. I mean, he's never going to be a starter, but he can spot start. He can manage the game. But I think he's really smart. And he's going to be someone that can kind of see what's going on and help McCarthy kind of grow and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't understand the hate in this one. It's a low risk, moderate reward move. Like worst thing that happens. Oh no, you move back 30 spots and you paid $1 million for your backup quarterback who sucked. Woo. Or, hey, you got a cheap ass backup quarterback who had to step in for a game and ended up playing pretty damn well. And Kevin O'Connell fixed him. He leaves for compensatory picks at the end of the year, too. We got to remember that. He's a quarterback.
Yeah.
If he goes somewhere else, makes some decent money. I mean, he's not going to do, what Darnold did, but I don't know. I just don't understand the hate for this move. I mean, to me, it's an A. It's cheap and you got what you needed. You got a veteran backup quarterback. Like, it just doesn't, I don't know. I just don't understand the hate behind this one bit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I give this an A. You didn't lose much. I mean, at that point, like 30 picks, I would have liked it. I don't know who would have. At that point, I'm like, we probably would have picked someone that would win at 172 anyways. But I just, like you said, I mean, Sam Howell came in the league as a rookie, played well enough to make the Commanders feel like he could potentially be their guy and let him be the starter the next year. He had one super awful game or whatever in Seattle that everybody is kind of married to that game. Obviously, yeah, he gets a lot of interceptions at the end of the day. Like you said, he's a quarterback too. He's a backup quarterback. And I would argue for sure that if anybody thinks that there's not a chance that Kevin O'Connell can at least make him a higher end quarterback too. I don't know why you wouldn't think he'd be able to do that. I think if there's anybody that's going to get the best out of any player, it's him. And he has shown that he can be productive in the NFL at times. And that's kind of how I feel about him. And like you said, we weren't expecting a guy to come in here and be a borderline starting quarterback, and that's you believing. The reality is, like, you can say whatever you want about JJ McCarthy's health, you can say anything you want about him in general, but you pick JJ McCarthy top 10. You can't, he's fully healthy. I'm not going to live this world where I just automatically think I have to have the backup plan for JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy is the plan. If all fails, it fucking fails, and it sucks. Yeah. It is what it is. I'm not going to plan to bring someone in and pay him money because my hope, what we need to happen, it is hopeful thinking, is JJ McCarthy is a top 10 pedigree quarterback, the guy that we were hoping he'd be, and he ends up being healthy. I'm not like already planning for him to fail or
right. Exactly. And T-Bass, and this is fine, but that's what I'm saying though. It's like people were so like concerned that we wouldn't find one. Well, guess what? We found a backup quarterback for cheap. And what happened those last two times? Case Keenum. I remember when Teddy went down, or no, that was Sam Bradford. When Sam Bradford went down and Keenum had to start, I remember sitting there thinking, like, we're not going to win another game this year, right? Last year, JJ McCarthy goes down. Sam Darnold has to start. Everybody's like, oh, well, we're going to win like 3 or 4 games this year. So, yes, I'm not discrediting the position in general. I'm just saying that Vikings fans cared way too much about it. But, yes, those 2 instances you're mentioning were both with quarterbacks who were like, well, we're screwed. We're never going to win anything. Who's to say that doesn't happen with Sam Howell too, right? Maybe JJ goes down, Howell steps in, and he does what those 2 guys did. So I'm not discrediting the position because it could very well happen in this instance too. I'm just saying that Vikings fans cared way too much about it and made way too big of a deal and were way too stressed because for some reason, like you said, they're already putting this thing into their mind like, oh, McCarthy might not work. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah,
I know. That's you gotta commit. You gotta commit.
Minnesota sports fan mentality where we're always just like, no, don't say anything. We don't want to jinx it. We don't want to jinx it. Like, be confident. Be confident that what you have going on is going to work out.
Yeah, and that's what Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi has been doing, and you gotta love it. And Sam Howell in general, there's no reason, like, he has shown enough. And with Kevin O'Connell, it wouldn't be crazy to see this quarterback to step up on a good roster and has a good. We've seen it with Sam Darnold. We've seen it with the Case Keenums. We've seen it before. Not saying that's going to happen with Sam Howell, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing. And everyone wants to say that he isn't Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold's pedigree, whatever. No one was saying that shit last year when we get Sam Darnold. Nobody was coming. Everyone was saying Sam Darnold's ass and he's a bust and all that stuff. Nobody came in and was like, yeah, but he was a second round pick and stuff like that. I mean, some people were, but most people weren't. So Sam Howell, you could argue Sam Howell had arguably a better season than Sam Darnold had up to that point. So I don't know, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. And then I just we're going to go back in UDFAs, which we got to kind of pick up speed here. But UDFAs, and that's why I wanted to talk about Max Brosmer too. He was a guy that me and you were kind of like hoping, like, if we had a late 7th round pick, fuck it, just go get him. I like that kid. He has a nice arm. He can kind of just flick his wrist and just strikes. And he's a Minnesota Gopher. It's like the first Minnesota Gopher quarterback to come in where you're like, this kid might have like actual pro potential.
He ain't no Mitch
And
Leitner or
that's what's
Tanner
cool
Morgan.
about it.
No shot.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what's cool about it. It's like this guy could actually be a decent quarterback in the NFL type of situation. So I'm glad we ended up with him. And anybody that hated Sam Howell, you got to be feeling good now that you coming after the draft. Now you have Sam Howell, you have Ripon, and you have Brosmer as well. So I feel great about that. And like you said, best case scenario, Brosmer ends up being a good quarterback too, and you're just got the JJ McCarthy, Sam Brosmer thing going on there. Would be cool.
Yeah.
It would be cool.
And I don't know. I was a big proponent of Max Brosmer after this last season. Like he just hasn't like he's like I said, never going to be a high level, never going to be a starting level quarterback in the league. I don't think, but he has those intangibles. He's a super smart kid. And like I do like this the quick release. He has certain things that are good for the NFL, and I think Kevin O'Connell can at least develop enough to turn him into a career backup. And he's
not a freaking
and I said, he's just smart, and that's what you need as a backup quarterback. Someone that can help your quarterback, because when you're on the field, you're not seeing everything. Someone that can be there, hold the clipboard, watch the plays, and kind of help you see what he's seeing from the sidelines. And Brosmer's that guy.
We ended up getting 39% A, 22% B, 28% C, and 11% D or F.
It's popping in, man.
All right, keep on rolling here. Next, we've got Kobe King, productive linebacker. A productive linebacker, kind of the opposite of what we did before. You're grabbing a guy who's been productive. He isn't super athletic. He kind of brings he's one of those nonstop engine guys, head down, going to be great in the run, all that type of things. Maybe not great in coverage. I know that's one thing people want to say is like the whole Ivan Pace thing, and now you get a guy that kind of helps that situation. It's like, if you think Ivan Pace ain't good in coverage, like this guy ain't going to come in and be great in coverage either. No. But I do think you got a really good value pick for someone that brought that kind of level of production in a underrated position of need, especially if you think Ivan Pace Jr. can't be a 3-4 down back. What is your thoughts on Kobe King?
Yeah, what's going on, AJ? First off, how was the draft on there, man? Looked busy, especially that first night. Looked like it was the most people Green Bay has ever seen at one time. Yeah, I mean, and again, like this isn't not a very sexy pick. I mean, if you like you said, not super athletic. If you look at the grades, I mean, if you're a PFF guy, he graded out pretty well on PFF. And again, and this was kind of a sneaky position of need coming in as well as the next pick was kind of a sneaky position of need coming into this draft. Because you have Cashman, who's amazing his first year here, but did have some injury issues. You have Ivan Pace. You have two really quality starters. If not, not lower end starters. We have two really quality starters there. But outside of that, you got Asamoah behind him, and you got Kamu Grugier, who stepped in nicely for the couple games that Cashman missed. Really wasn't a position where you have a ton of depth. So getting a guy like this who played for Penn State, Big Ten football, really solid on that defense. It's a depth piece in the 6th round that comes into training camp, fights for a roster spot, and he just adds some depth to that position if he does make the team. So again, not a sexy pick. Probably I'm seeing the first thing I see when I look up is the C grade. I probably agree with that. It's just it's a piece that might come in and add some depth to this linebacker room. Probably not going to start, probably not going to start in his career. But again, a guy that played high level football at Penn State and graded out pretty well overall. Like it's an okay pick. It's depth at the end of the day.
It's depth. Production, you never know. You might get something good out of him. And we'll find out. That's why I give it a B. I thought you got good value for that level of production. We didn't really go for that production thing. He's a guy that can bring energy to this team. Obviously, we have that in Ivan Pace Jr. too, and then even Brian Asamoah. I don't know if I would be surprised if Brian Asamoah sticks around, but we do have a lot of energy coming into that linebacker group now. And I thought this was a solid pick at this point in the draft. Some people had him going much higher than this. I think I saw someone say that he was their 133 or something like that even. So I think it's solid. It wasn't anything crazy.
I did forget about Eric Wilson as well. I forgot he's back. But again, who knows? We'll kind of see what happens with him there. But
yeah, which we'll see. I don't know. I can't say. I mean, he had great production. Yep. I ain't being now Ivan Pace. That job ain't. I'm not in that room of believers that first off, Ivan Pace Jr. played pretty solid in coverage his rookie year. So I'm not in that group of people that thinks he can't be somewhat decent in coverage.
Yeah, I mean, none of these guys are coming in here like fighting for starting spots. We know those belong to Cashman and Pace, 100%.
And I think Pace is the starting. I don't think he needs to be a two down back linebacker or anything like that. I personally
you need depth, and that's exactly what you're getting here, as well as the next pick. I guess
I'll bring that one up right here.
Which is it again? Gavin Bartholomew, tight end out of Pitt. Nothing super sexy here. Probably going to come. I mean, he's going to come in. Again, another position that was kind of sneaky, a sneaky need. Losing Johnny Munt, losing Nick Muse. I mean, you have 2 tight ends on the roster. You bring in Gavin Bartholomew, who pretty athletic. I mean, I know they're showing some of his highlights. He only had I think he had career high 380 some receiving yards last year and 3 touchdowns. He did have kind of a fun catch and hurdle over a player and route to a touchdown that was kind of fun to watch. But he's, I mean, coming in here to be just hopefully your third tight end, get in there along the line, inline blocker, help block. Maybe he ends up surprising us as a pass catcher in this offense. But again, it's just more of that getting pieces around JJ McCarthy, getting him another weapon, potentially, probably not, but also another blocker to put in there on running plays or when you're trying to get into some of those heavy pass sets. So again, another late round pick that if he doesn't make the team, oh darn, you spent pick 202 on him. Personally, I'm going to grade this probably like a C-. I would have loved to seen Brashard Smith in this spot instead of him. But again, it's very unsexy. There's probably other tight ends that would have been better. By the way, remember how often we drafted that Harold Fannin, like in like the 4th, 5th round? He went earlier than expected as well. I think he's going to do good things. I think he ended up in Cleveland, maybe. I don't remember. Yeah, Cleveland behind. I think that's going to be a good pick for them. But yeah, I don't know. Right. It's just kind of like, it's meh. It's just whatever.
Eric Wilson. But Eric Will, I like Eric Wilson special teams. I don't think Eric Wilson's going to come in here and make some noise too much from the middle linebacker position, in my opinion.
I agree, man. Yeah, I would have rather had Brashard Smith in that spot as well. I mean,
yeah, I'll give it a D+. And kind of everything you said. This is a guy. Some people thought he could have went undrafted. He has shown some athleticism. I know you mentioned he had that leap over somebody like that. So he showed some of that. It sounds like he has maybe some potential catching, but at the end of the day, it looks like we'd probably use him as more of like a inline blocker type of thing. And if that works out, if he ends up being this hybrid dude and it's like having another offensive lineman on that's where like my grade I give him a grade, because it does sound like he would be better than most guys at that specific thing. Probably one of the least sexiest things I've ever heard from a player. But if he's
what a name though, what a name,
yeah,
Gavin
what a name. It is a name. Same with Kobe King. Kobe King is elite.
But this, football name. I will say this is like the one pick of this draft that I just didn't really see a bright side, because all the other ones I'm like, okay, I can see where this is going to be good in the future. I can see this, I can see that. This is just the one I'm just kind of like,
And there, like you said, there's other tight ends out there that were worth drafting. And that's why I don't know. I didn't love it. This one was surprising. I gave it a D+, maybe because I don't want to give Fs. Me being biased a little bit. And honestly, but that's the thing though, too, is I kind of like when people described it as a way of like being a inline blocker who's kind of almost having like another offensive lineman there. If that did work out and you get to have another, like you just really ain't fucking around with the trenches at all, where you literally go get the best tight end who's can block like that.
Just don't Johnny Munt an onside kick, please. That's all I ask.
Yeah, please. Yeah, just don't do that. Which I don't think this is the guy we're rolling out there in those situations. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we got 7% A. We got an A in here. I want to know who did the A and hear what your thoughts are. 14% B.
It was Steve.
43%. It probably is Steve. 43% C and 36% D or F. So not everybody's favorite pick. And I think that's the big one here is Brashard Smith. We're all rooting for him. We could have got him fucking in round 7 and he lasts the way he did. The reality of that is we just didn't need a running back. I felt like Smith at that point felt like an absolute no-brainer, regardless if you need a running back or not. But the Vikings obviously feel so good about their running back room where maybe if they do end up getting a running back, it's probably a guy that they absolutely love and maybe someone that you pick in next year's draft early
Yeah.
earlier than what we've seen in this one or something like that. I don't
And
even know. I just don't
I
get
didn't
it.
I didn't hate the UDFA out of Jacksonville State either. I watched some of his highlights last night, and he could be kind of fun. But I mean, again, and I think another thing too, like with the Vikings bringing in Brashard Smith on the top 30 visit, I think is why a lot of people thought like, oh, if he's one of the top 30 players they brought in, they're obviously going to pick him at these 2 picks they have in a row. Obviously, didn't happen. Went with the tight end instead. And I think, I mean, because obviously Smith could have came in and next year could have been the guy to take over because he kind of fits the Aaron Jones mold, right? The pass catcher who's also a solid running back. He could have taken over there, but is what it is. Vikings didn't make that move. So they end up with 5 picks instead of the 4, as well as picking up your backup quarterback. I think we did kind of spoil it in the thumbnail. B- grade for this one. I guess when it comes down to my main thoughts on it here, like we went into this draft, you know, obviously we did what we did in the offseason. We got the offensive line. I think a lot of us, it was kind of opposite, right? I think a lot of us kind of felt like the offense was set and we were going to focus a lot on that defense because we brought Harrison Smith back. Yes, we have Jonathan Allen. Yes, we have Javon Hargrave, but those guys are all old and getting up there in age. So I think we all kind of expected this to be a draft where it's like, we're going to focus on building that defense, adding some depth behind it. And then in the future, these guys are going to end up rotating and becoming starters for these guys. And we're excited to see Flores coach him up. But at the end, and who knows, maybe the way the board fell dictated things. Maybe the fact that all 3 defensive interior guys were gone. Maybe the fact that Harrison Smith and they like Theo Jackson around here. Maybe that's why they didn't go safety. But also you can look at it in a way of like, it could also very well be that they just think they have enough on this defense for a couple years to where they're like Flores is going to be, because we've seen what he's done with subpar defenses in the past. Like you can look at the defense and say this defense is leaps and bounds better talent wise than anything we've had since Flores has been here. Am I right in saying that? Would you agree?
Yeah.
I think this could be one of those things where the Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell decided like, hey, we have enough for Flores to work with. What we're going to take this draft and do is give our young future franchise quarterback coming off a knee injury, who's going to be a presumptive starter this year, giving him every opportunity to succeed. And you did that by loading up that offensive line, getting him a blocking tight end, and hopefully getting him another weapon within that offense in Ty Felton. So I think, and that's why I think there's a lot of disappointment with how this draft rolled out. I think there's a lot of Vikings fans that wanted defense. They wanted to move back, get more picks. But at the end of the day, they put their young quarterback in the best position to succeed. And no matter how you wanted this thing to roll out, you as a Vikings fan who wants to have your future franchise quarterback be damn good, you cannot be upset with the fact that we took this draft and built around him, much like they said they were going to do coming into the season. And they still added pieces on defense to make it better. So I think that's where the initial disappointment comes from. That's why a lot of people did grade this draft a little bit lower. Sure, there were some reaches, but I don't know. In my mind, they loaded this thing up for JJ McCarthy to be successful. And you can't be mad at that.
Yeah. And yeah, you just hit it on the nail. I mean, at the end of the day, that's exactly what they did with Donovan Jackson. That's why I said, like, even if he was the only guy that ended up being good, actually, we want more than that. But if he ended up being as good as we think he can be, that would be massive. Even if he's the only one, obviously you'd like it to be better than that. But we ended up ultimately having 5 picks here. But you did kind of go more potential later. And that's just, I'm with you. At the end of the day, you're feeling confident into that offensive line. Things didn't roll out the way I was hoping. They didn't roll out the way I wanted. My best case scenario is trading back for Harmon. That wasn't even an option. Or grab Kenneth Grant at 24 wasn't an option. A lot of things I wanted as well just couldn't happen. Brashard Smith, it sucked being able to see him keep going down. Xavier Watts, I was a little disappointed that he got sniped right before us. Like you go grab him, you're feeling a lot different just because you know the value you got in him, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this team did get better in JJ McCarthy. I mean, that offense is ridiculous. And even with Ty Felton, if Ty Felton turns even anything close to what Kwesi in that front office probably thinks, then you're feeling like if he ends up being a legit wide receiver 3, we're laughing at every other team's offense in the league because this team and if Bart, I liked how I think it was the big railing called him Bart. Whoever called him Bart, thank you. That's a lot easier. But if Bart ends up coming in and being the 6th offensive line we needed, then that would be huge too. So I give it a B minus. Wasn't exactly what I was. It wasn't, it didn't get my little wee hard or nothing like that. It's not really little, but anyways, but keep going. Maybe it is. I don't know. But no, for real though,
gone off the rails. My goodness.
It was an all right draft. And again, even like I like the Donovan Jackson pick, but even that position in general isn't going to do that for you. So yeah, I don't know. B minus. I think that is good. Maybe if we got Smith, I would have moved it up to like a B or something like that.
But we can all be happy. The Bears did not get Ashton Genty. And at the end of the day, we can all smile. They did get Colson Loveland, but it is what it is.
Again, everybody, giving away cards. We'll be doing this soon. So get the hashtag Skols in the comments, like the video, and subscribe. We can kind of talk a little bit about these undrafted free agents.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, just a couple I like. I do think that running back could end up being some. Was his name Trey? Is it Trey Williams? Trey Stewart. That's his name. Trey Stewart.
Got a B, by the way, for overall grade. By the way, B for overall grade.
I think that's fair. 68%, so close. But like I personally think that Trey Stewart could be something
real nice.
Again, as I've already gooned over Max Brosmer, I do like that one as well. Silas Bolden, the guy from Texas who's got some big time speed. He could end up being a punt returner at receiver, maybe make some headway there. And I know there's a couple guys you mentioned you like. I'll let you get into those here quick. But yeah, those are kind of the ones that stick out to me. Like the Brosmer and the running back. Brosmer. I love the Brosmer one, but I think that running back could be pretty damn good too. So
hey, it works.
It works.
That's all I know.
And they got some offensive linemen as well. So
of course, my wife says it's not how big it is, it's how you use it. Or what is that? I totally messed that up. What is it?
It's something that at work one of my coworkers said. It's like when someone's like, "Oh, we're having a girl." It's like, I couldn't get deep enough for a boy, huh? So there you go.
Hey, I got a boy. It works. That's all that matters. But hey, it could have been better if we would have drafted Kenneth Grant at 24. But no, I'm happy with it overall. And as far as the undrafted free agent stuff goes, obviously Brosmer, I was super excited about that. I know, like you kind of convinced me during our mock drafts and stuff. Like I like enough of him. The idea of quarterback 2, the gopher thing, just everything about it. And we were on Bleacher Report. We were like 5 minutes in when someone came in and said that we wouldn't snag them. It was immediately, and I don't blame them. If I'm Brosmer, best case scenario, go to the Vikings with Kevin O'Connell. Yeah, that is absolutely the dream undrafted scenario. You probably prefer that than going in the 7th round to somebody else. So I really like that. And then obviously, everyone's talking about Logan Brown. He was considered arguably the top offensive line, definitely the top tackle. I believe people said he can also play guard. And if you can get that, and we just do this every single year, we get the top prospect coming out of undrafted free agency year in and year out under Kwesi. And it kind of happened again with Logan Brown, but not just Logan Brown. Tyler Batty, he was a guy that some people had going into like the 4th or 5th round. Some people had him all the way to the 7th, obviously undrafted, but and he was the number 1 defensive lineman or the defensive end coming out as well of this draft is going into free agency. And you got both of them. I think the one guy that anybody, if anybody was sad or any Viking fans, and maybe this has a lot to do with our guy Vocal Vike and his love for Kobe Bryant and seeing him come all the way down, which is still crazy, by the way, and get undrafted. And I know there is one guy that a lot of Viking fans were hoping, and probably a lot of fans coming in, and it was to go and grab him. Ultimately went to the Falcons, but at the end of the day, we can't have them all. We can't expect them to have them all every single year. And we still got some damn good ones. Obviously, we talked about Trey Stewart. I know we're hearing a lot of good things about Silas Bolden. So I know we're talking about some of these tight ends coming in and safeties and just some studs coming in for this squad and undrafted free agency again.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, let me catch back up here. At least Jamie's man enough to be able to create a baby boy. Gary must feel so low. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy. Not falling for Gary's lies. But anyways, for undrafted free agency, we got a B, 60. I'm surprised. That's an A all day, in my opinion. For undrafted free agent, you can't expect, if you go out and get the top 2 of the absolute top, there's 32 teams that can go pick them. If you get 2 of the top ones, that's like as an automatic A. And Brosmer easily, I would say A plus, because we like Brosmer enough.
And again, like when people want to talk about culture, like this is culture. I mean, yes, these guys get hefty guarantees to go to places. But like you said, the guys that don't get drafted get to pick their pick which team they go to. You know, like you said, out of 32. So this is where having a facility that people know is good and having a good team culture, especially when you bring these guys in for visits, that is what contributes to getting top end undrafted free agent talent. So people that want to discredit culture for everything because culture is new age and people don't like new age stuff sometimes, that shows really how important it ends up being at the end of the day. And I guess before we get into anything else, do we want to talk some quarterback slides, or we've been going for a while here? If we start talking Shedeur and Quinn Ewers, we could be talking for a while.
How about this? I have 2. One of these is a lie, or one of these. All right, never mind. I'm not even doing it. I messed it up already. All right, what were you gonna say?
To be honest, culture is for pussies. I disagree. 100%. I 100% disagree. I think that's a really not very good take at all. I'll be straight up.
Culture is. I mean, it's showing.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
This culture has literally brought Jonathan Allen straight up and other free agencies. So the first thing they say is they came here for the culture. If the culture is bad, why? Like, first off, we're a winning. In my opinion, we have a winning culture, and our players aren't just only assholes. That's it.
Right. I mean, would you rather be Arizona and like not give your players jack shit? Like, would you rather be a team that just doesn't invest in their players at all? Like Arizona, how lowly rated they are all the time. I don't know. I just think it's a lazy take to say culture doesn't matter. I don't know. It does matter.
Yeah. Not one of freaking big game. The culture, it's only 3 years into this culture.
That's how you build. That's how you build a team that can do it, by getting big time agents to want to come here.
Yeah. No, we're good. It's there's so many teams with shitty culture. There's a lot of teams that haven't won a big game.
Yeah.
Like,
and like that's how you create a culture of winning. Is create a culture people want to come play in, and then you grow from there. And this team's starting to do that.
Yeah.
In 3 years under this regime, they're starting to do that.
I know T-Bass's thoughts on all that stuff, but obviously we definitely disagree with all that.
Yeah. Just a man's thoughts. Just a man's thoughts. That's what we can do here, though. We can all say what we want and disagree.
Anyways, let's get this giveaway going. Get the hashtag Skols in the comments, like the video, and subscribe. All that good stuff. Yeah, I guess overall, solid draft. Nothing too crazy. I do feel it is really nice feeling confident that your offense is just going to be completely insane. I guess one thing about it too is it makes me, even though obviously we have a whole year in front of us that I'm excited about, but it does make me excited to see what next offseason is going to look like when we still have all these same players under contract. We have more money, and assuming at this point we're going to be pushing some along, but we still will have money in free agency, and we're going to have a shit ton more draft picks in that draft, and we'll be able to literally go all defense if we wanted to at this point. So that's something to kind of be excited about the future.
Yeah, and that's the fun of this whole thing is we can.
Well, guess what, T-Bass? You're not allowed to have your opinion is wrong.
Gary, wrench him. I'm kidding.
I'm just kidding.
Well, it's all good. It's all good. That's the fun of all of this. We can still like disagree and get along at the end of the day, which in this world doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
You just can't disagree with me. That's the only rule.
I don't care who you golf with. Go golf with whoever you want. I won't judge you for it.
Yeah, Saquon.
But anyway, anything else before we hop into that giveaway?
I guess let's get that up, and then kind of how we feeling about the Minnesota sports going on right now.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
opinion's never wrong. Yeah, same with my wife. She knows too.
yeah, I mean this last game for the Wolves was, I think, for the Lakers kind of debilitating, right? I mean, the last two games you got everything you could out of LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves. You play LeBron, you play the same five for the entirety of the second half, and even that, when you have a 10-point lead multiple times in that second half, doesn't get the job done. Like, that's a absolutely debilitating gut punch. And when you look at it, like, people were so upset with the Towns trade. Like, the Towns trade allowed us to have depth. And depth is the reason why we're up 3-1 in this series at the end of the day, right? Julius Randle, is he Karl Anthony Towns? No. Julius Randle's played pretty damn well. Dante DiVincenzo has been amazing off the bench for the majority of the season and in the playoffs. So, like, I don't know. I understand it. You got rid of a star player in Towns, but this was the whole vision of getting rid of Towns, was being able to like being able to build a team that's deep and can do exactly what we're seeing them do right now. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Like,
Yeah.
this is exactly what the vision was.
Yeah, and just to answer Mark's thing is he looked hurt or whatever, but then he got up. I was almost
Superman.
Yeah, my life flashed before my eyes when he got hurt. That would have been so crazy. But like you said it perfectly. I think, like, obviously you're against Luka and LeBron James. You should never feel confident, even if you're up 3-1 against LeBron in general. He's 40 years old. Yeah. But even Luka, he's that type of player. But it does feel such a defeating loss for the Lakers, for them to be the first team ever in the playoffs to play their starting five for the entire second half. Ultimately to lose that game has to be really defeating. And LeBron's, like, regardless, I get it. He's like killing the whole idea of old age or whatever. But at 40 years old, playing that much, and then you end up taking the L anyways. I just, that's going to be immense. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. So that's why I'm feeling confident in the Timberwolves to clean this one up.
I mean, but Anthony Edwards, man, is just like, I called Wolves in 6 after game 1. I said we'll lose in LA, we'll win both at home, and then I think we end up winning on our home floor. I think we win in 6. I think we lose the next one and win at home, game 6. But like, I said also, like, Anthony Edwards' legacy series coming up here, and I mean he was already in the public eye as one of those guys. This is the series where I think he's going to get some MVP love going into next season. I really do. Like, I think he's made a name for himself that much in these playoffs, to where, like, if you didn't really, I mean, everyone knew who he was, but I just think it just takes him to the next echelon of stardom in the league after what we're seeing in these playoffs.
And what's interesting, it's funny, it's like everybody already forgot about how well Anthony Edwards played in playoffs last season, and then people literally saying he was Michael Jordan. And it's almost like everyone forgot about that, and we're living through it all over again with Anthony Edwards, because they put him that high, brought him back down, and Anthony Edwards he's that guy. Like, he's the guy that steps up in the biggest moments. He's the guy that plays better in playoffs. He just, we're lucky to have someone like that.
Right. I mean, everybody who was complaining about, the trade and everything, it's like, if we make it through this series, then we get the Warriors or whoever, and I think we can win that series. If we somehow find a way to make it back to the Western Conference Finals, sure, there's still a lot of work to be done, but a lot of those people that were mad about the trade are going to be pretty
FT Maddie. You still in here, Maddie?
And then as for the Wild, obviously blew it at home game 2. Would have been great for them to go up 3-1 as well, but tied 2-2 in a series in which nobody expected them to win, and they've been playing pretty damn good hockey, even though I'm not a hockey fan. That's just what I see. Good for them. And the Twins are on a little 4-game winning streak and are up 9-1 over Cleveland tonight. So Minnesota sports are looking up at the moment.
I do want to say something to Big Raylan is we kind of had OKC's number during the season. We kind of whooped that ass the last couple seasons, including like the biggest comeback, one of the biggest, if not the biggest comeback in NBA history against them this season as well. So I don't know. We probably are the best matchup against OKC. If there's one team that people think can beat them, it's the Timberwolves, and they're going to. Bleeding. Oh, there he is. Won the last one. All right, keeping on rolling here. But no, it's exciting. That'd be
Absolutely.
crazy. Anthony Edwards just taking out Kevin Durant, Jokic last year. If he takes out both Luka and LeBron this year, Gary, let's go.
I mean, look, I do like Luka. I mean, one of the best players in the league.
I like.
God, it's hard. It's such a bitch. It's hard to watch him play.
You just don't want to be the one. It's annoying when you're the one against him. And then even though it's annoying, like him doing or him forcing all those fouls and stuff and all that is super annoying. But
I kind of respect. I kind of respect the attitude.
Mafia,
honestly, like I kind of respect it a little bit, but I still call him Luka Doncic, so it's okay.
Yeah, especially when you're against him. But I like Luka. I don't have a problem with him.
I mean, I get it.
Like, why would you not?
That would be one of the top 5-10 players in the NBA, but he is.
Yeah. Same with Jokic.
Why could that be? I'm kidding, because they both look out of shape.
They're both them Europeans are just built different.
Yep.
You know, they just smash tons of bruises after every game too.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen it with
Luka
until they try to stop him.
Hey, we got everybody in here. Switch over. Mafia, are you turning into a Timberwolves fan or what?
Should be.
I don't see why not. You're already on the Vikings train. Might as well hit the Timberwolves train. 45 seconds. All the names in here. All right. For JJ McCarthy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom. And we're off immediately. Hey, Dylan, how are you feeling about that series, Dylan? That's going to be
that's tied 2-2. It's tied 2-2, right?
Yeah. That's going to be a tough one, man. Nuggets and the Clippers.
That one's been tight. That'll be an interesting series. Whoever wins that against OKC, that'll be an interesting.
I think Mafia would move there, but it's damn cold. That's how I'm saying. That's why I'm not there.
He lives in Buffalo. Come on.
Yeah. Well, Buffalo's just snowy. It's just snowy. It's cold too, but I don't think it. Oh, it's probably colder than Minneapolis. We got two-tone though.
With the dub. Nice.
Let's go. Yeah, it is. I'm pink. I'm done. Two-tone. What you thinking, my man? We got. I don't know if you've won in a while. We got JJ McCarthy's, Dallas Turner's, colored Dallas Turner's. What are you looking for, two-toned? Will Reichard still waiting for someone to grab the first Will Reichard.
Someone break the seal. Someone take a Will Reichard card.
You don't have to, though.
But you should. Dude's going to be a stud.
I think so.
JJ? Okay.
JJ, all right, I got you. Two-tone. Perfect.
All right. Anything else?
Not too much, man. Just hey, let's go Wolves. Wild tomorrow. Prime time Minnesota sports. Obviously the draft's over, so things start to slowly whittle itself down quite a bit. We got schedule release coming up that we talked about, and then the mini camps, rookie mini camp.
Wednesday, right? Schedule release 2 weeks from Wednesday.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
And then obviously that's when we'll hopefully the week after that have Skol Fest plans finalized. Or at least we should.
Right.
Cool to see where week one or where the first home game ends up.
Yep. Skol Fest is going to be coming soon, which we have a couple. We got a good, I think I mentioned before, I don't know. There's a good chance we end up at a spot we really wanted to be at. So that by itself, I think is gonna take Skol Fest to a different level this year. And then anything else we add is going to be bonus. So I'm pumped. Yeah,
absolutely. But if nothing else, I suppose we'll let everybody get on with their evenings.
All righty.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. As we said, we'll be on with you guys next Monday.
Mark.
We'll be on Bleacher Report on Wednesday if you guys want to hop in with us on there, 6 p.m. Central Time. But otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week. See you guys Monday.
Go Vikes.